We continue our coverage, bringing in open source intelligence analyst Ryan McBeth, as well as Newsmax contributor and former executive director for Iranian Americans for Liberty, Brian Lieb. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Ryan, I'll start with you. With help from the United Nations, a new shipping lane opening in the Strait of Hormuz, you had 70 ships that were able to pass through there using that in one day. So 70 ships, one day alone. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard responded by striking a British cargo ship. That's what Alex Selby was just telling us about. Now, the U.S. is determining whether this is a violation of their interim agreement with Iran that they currently have in place. I mean, do you think it will unravel as they try and move towards progress, towards peace?
Well, it certainly could. It depends on how we determine the Ever Lovely was attacked. There could be a situation where you have multiple factions in Iran, some IRGC people who don't want any sort of peace with the United States. They want this conflict to continue because it puts them in a better position of power at the end of a conflict, or they aren't crazy about where this conflict has ended and left them in power. Or this could be a situation where the government of Iran ordered this attack. Once we make that determination, we'll go to the next steps. But it all is predicated on how this ship was attacked, who authorized it, and whether we can determine that information.
Yeah, after the incident, the Iranian government sent out a message on state TV that safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz can only be guaranteed through their established routes. Now, are they worried that their chokehold leverage on the Strait of Hormuz may be weakening with the opening of this route, Brian?
Listen, we're seeing this happen in real time here, that there really is no difference between the IRGC and the Iranian government, or as a lot of people like to say, Kenzie, the new regime. This is who they are. This is who they've always been. The IRGC and this government, they're having a very tough time dealing with the fact that President Trump is pushing them to the table to get rid of their nuclear program and to also abandon a lot of other things that have been part of their calling card for the last 47 years. So I think we're going to continue to see a lot more flare-ups like this as we get closer, and over the next, 60-day window here, because it's just my belief that the IRGC is just never going to let peace, take root here, and they're going to do everything they can to probably try and stop it.
Yeah, Brian, to that point, you mentioned the new regime. You think this is any different than the old?
There's no difference. I mean, old regime, new regime, the lead negotiator that is the Iranian parliament speaker is currently labeled as being part of the new regime. Well, Kenzie, just a couple months ago, this was the same guy that was in the parliament holding up the American flag, burning the American flag, and chanting for death to America. So new regime, old regime, they're all the same people. They're all still terrorists.
Yeah, Secretary of State Marco Rubio weighing in on the incident.
The president has multiple options at his disposal if Iran goes back on their word or if Iran decides they don't want to make a deal. Let's hope that's not the case. We don't want that to be the case. We're going to give diplomacy every chance to work. We've got a good team working on it. And so if it doesn't work out, the president knows what his options are.
Ryan, how would you advise President Trump to respond to Iran's attack on this cargo ship, just trying to take this new route through the Strait of Hormuz?
Yeah. Look, I can tell you this. The way I would do it is I would say, look, we're going to hit them back 10 times harder. Every time you choose to do this, every time you choose not to play by the rules of civilized nations, we will hit you back 10 times harder. And then we're going to give you another chance. And we can essentially do this indefinitely.
Yeah, an unusual reversal here. The Senate passed a resolution that would block an earlier vote that called for the president to seek congressional approval before continuing the war with Iran. You have Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy, who changed his earlier vote where he sided with the Democrats. Brian, what do you make of this?
Well, certainly we all know that Bill Cassidy is on his way out the door, having just lost his primary. And, I really think the Republicans in the Senate, need to get their priorities in line right now. Stop worrying about passing war powers acts, about, defeating the world's leading sponsor of terrorism. And maybe they need to get a little bit more focused on making sure that, showing your ID to vote in elections is law of the land.
Yeah, definitely. As we've been reporting, Israel and Lebanon, they met in Washington trying to really hammer out a peace treaty here. The United States proposed that our military train and vet members of Lebanon's armed forces to free them from Hezbollah influence. Ryan, is such direct involvement in another country's war a good idea?
So we've trained Lebanese soldiers before. In fact, I recall Lebanese soldiers coming over, Lebanese officers coming over and attending various U.S. Army schools. It's not a bad thing to train foreign officers or foreign soldiers on how to deal with Hezbollah. We know how to do this. We're very good at going into another country and teaching officers and NCOs on how to fight or how to fight a counterinsurgency campaign. So something like this can only make the Lebanese military stronger. What they really need is the will to do so. And in a country where Hezbollah is literally part of their parliament, I believe they have 5 seats in parliament, that kind of shows you where Lebanon puts priorities, because those 5 seats that Hezbollah has in parliament could certainly mean, hey, not every single member of parliament is necessarily safe on the streets if you have people who know exactly where you live and exactly what your voting intentions are.
Well, Ryan McBeth, Brian Lieb, thank you both for joining me nice and early this morning. I appreciate it.